Hello and welcome back to Baking with Dimi. Today what I'm going to share with you is how to make little round ruffled baklava, and we're also going to make little long cigars as well. So we're going to be using Antoniou Fillo Pastry for this one here. So the first thing that we need to get on is our syrup. Okay, so to get started what we need is 1.5 cups of sugar. I also have 3/4 of a cup of water. I also have here 3/4 of a cup of honey, nice citrus honey. What I did was I actually melted the honey a little bit in the microwave, which makes it easier to come out the jar. Okay, we're also going to need a slither of lemon, about that much of lemon. We need 1 cinnamon stick. I've actually broken these in half, so I'll put 2 of those. We need about 5 whole cloves as well. 5 to 6 cloves is plenty, otherwise it's too strong. And we're also going to add 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla sugar. We're going to place this onto our cooktop. We're going to bring it to the boil and then simmer this for 5 minutes. Okay, so I've got the syrup on my cooktop. That needs to go on first because that's really crucial that we get the syrup cold. And when we make our baklava and they come out of the oven, they need to be hot so that they can stay crisp. So I'll just get rid of these. The next thing that we need to place on our cooktop is the butter. So I've got 250 grams of unsalted butter that we need to warm up so that we can make the baklava. So just chop that up, pop that into your saucepan and then pop that onto the cooktop so they can start melting. Okay, so we've got the butter in our saucepan, we pop it onto the cooktop and we melt it down. Okay, so what we need to get onto next is our nuts. I have 1 cup of almonds and 1 cup of pistachios here. So what we need to do with these is put them into a food processor if you have one. And we need to bring them to like a breadcrumb to a nutty consistency. Okay, so if we have a look in here now, it's still very coarse. We need to go finer than that. And maybe at this stage we can just toast it until we get it the right consistency. Okay, so if we have a look now, it's still a bit coarse but not too coarse. And then we pop that into a little bowl. And then in here I've got 2 tablespoons of normal sugar. We're also going to add 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon powder, and we're also going to add 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves. And then make sure that we thoroughly mix all the flavors of those spices through the nutmegs and the sugar. What the sugar actually does is when we place this on top of the little ruffled baklava, it sort of caramelizes them a little bit and makes them a lot tastier and helps toast the nuts. Okay, next we're going to move on to our Fillo pastry. Make sure that your Fillo pastry is room temperature when you do this because it will be a lot easier to handle and you'll find that it won't crack either. If you take it straight out of the fridge, it will start to crack. The next thing we're going to need, which everyone I'm sure has in their home, is a wooden spoon. This is what we're going to use to make the little round ruffled baklava. And then I went to Bunnings and I grabbed myself a big piece of dough. I chopped it in half and we're going to need this one to do the cigars. As you can see, the thickness is really different. So this one's a bit thicker and this one's a little bit thinner. Okay, so that's what we're going to need for that. Okay, so this is our syrup. So it hasn't come to the boil yet, but once it does come to the boil, we need that to simmer for 5 minutes once it starts boiling. Okay, over here I've got my butter melting as well. The other thing that I forgot to mention to everybody is please preheat your oven to 180 degrees. Okay, so we're going to take our thawed out phyllo pastry from the fridge. I'm going to open this up. And what we need to do is place this onto our bench top. So one side you're going to have your phyllo pastry. On the other side you're going to have your butter. You're also going to need a pastry brush for that as well. So what we need to do is grab one sheet of pastry, place that onto your bench, and all we're going to do is just drizzle some butter. Then we're going to fold that one in half, turn it around. You're going to grab your wooden spoon, and then we're going to roll it onto the end of the wooden spoon. And once you've got it on, you're going to push that down. And that's how it's going to look when it comes off. You're going to pinch one side. You're going to spin it around, and that's our little ruffled baklava, flaky. And then we're going to pop that into our pan. Okay, so as you're making these, if you find that your wooden spoon gets a little bit buttery from the butter that we placed on here, have a clean cloth and just give it a wipe, and the same with your bench. Otherwise, the butter and the pastry is going to stick to your bench and it's going to be too hard to work with. So I'll show you another one quickly, and then I'll continue on until I fill up my tray. So you just need to drizzle. Do not overdo it with the butter, because then you won't be able to get it off of the wooden spoon. So bring it to the side like that. Grab your wooden spoon, tuck that over, and then turn it around to the side. And just let your hand glide it. And then scrunch it down. And spin it around. And that's it. I'll continue to do this, and then I'll come back and show you how they all look in the tray before we put the nuts on. Okay. So what we're going to do next is we're going to butter these a little bit. Don't need to go crazy, just a little bit. Grab your walnuts and your almond and pistachio filling, and then just pop that in there with a little teaspoon. As I mentioned before, these will close up as they cook. Okay, so I've put all the nuts on the baklava. I haven't placed them in the oven yet because I want to show you how to do the little cigars with the leftover pastry that we have. With your syrup, once the time is up with that and it's simmered for 5 minutes, strain it into a jug. And then we're going to place that into the fridge so it can cool down quicker. Okay, so with the leftover pastry that you have, what we're going to do is just some little long cigars to use it up. There's nothing worse than making something and having some pastry left over. So all we need for this one here is the dowel. We're going to turn this one this way this time. We just get the dowel. We need to get some of this pistachio and almond mix. Not too much of that. And all we're going to do is just roll that like so, okay? Then what we're going to do is just bring it together. and then just pop them in a tray. Okay, so to do the cigaraccia like this, all we need is our pastry. Just drizzle a little bit of that butter mix on here. Fold it in half. Get your dough and a little bit of that nut mix. A little bit of butter on the edge, and then just roll that. And then just squeeze it together. And pop it on there. So this is the little cigar baklava. Now what we need to do is actually cut these. But if you didn't want to do the little round baklava and you just wanted to do the little ruffled ones like this, obviously you'd use a larger tray. But this is just to use up the Fillo pastry. This is what I do it for. Okay, so once they're cut, just give them a good little butter. Okay, and now these can go into the oven for 25 to 30 minutes on 180 degrees. Okay, so I've taken the syrup out of the fridge. It's nice and cool now, which I strained. The baklava has been 30 minutes in the oven. And these are ready. And these are our smaller ones. So all you need to do now while this is hot is just pour these over the top. And as you can hear that little sizzle, that's what we're wanting to hear. So you're virtually covering most of the baklava about halfway when you're pouring this over the top. And then these ones here, exactly the same method. Because I don't have a full tray with these, what I suggest that you do is either grab a little knife or something, place it underneath so they stay in the syrup, so the syrup doesn't pour into the other side of the tray. So allow these to cool down a little bit, and then we'll cut one open and then we'll show you how they look. Okay, so these now have soaked up most of the syrup. What I actually did was halfway through I got a spoon and actually spooned a little bit over the top. I'll cut one open so you can just see what they look like inside. So that's our little round one. And this is our little cigaraccia. There. So hear that crunch, it's nice and crispy. So that's the little round ones. And that's our ruffled baklava. So if you like what you've seen here today, please subscribe to the page down below. I also have the recipe there as well. Please feel free to share this with your family and friends. Look forward to seeing you making these. And also, if you're not a member of my Facebook page, please join Baking with Dimi also. So these are our little cigaraccia. Absolutely beautiful and delicious. I hope you all give them a go. Thank you very much for watching me today. See you next time. Bye.